When Charlemagne was born, Europe did not exist, not as an idea, not as a concept, not as a civilization. There were kingdoms, there were tribes, and there were warlords. And then there was a man who spent 46 years making them one. He built schools, he standardized laws, he created a common currency, he promoted literacy across his entire empire. He could barely write his own name. This is the story of the man who invented Europe. When Rome fell in 476 AD, it left a void. Centuries of chaos followed. Tribes fought over the ruins of a civilization they didn't fully understand. The knowledge of the ancient world was disappearing. Monasteries kept some of it alive, but barely. Into this fractured world, Charlemagne was born. Around 742 AD, son of a Frankish king, heir to a small kingdom, with an ambition that had no limits. Charlemagne did not conquer through diplomacy, he conquered through war. For 30 years he fought the Saxons in one of the longest military campaigns in medieval history. He offered them a choice: convert to Christianity or die. Thousands were forcibly baptized. At the massacre of Verdun, he executed 4,500 Saxon prisoners in a single day. He was not a gentleman. He was a man who believed the end justified the means, and the end was a unified Christian Europe. But what separates Charlemagne from other conquerors is what he built after the battles. He didn't just want territory, he wanted civilization. He established schools across his entire empire. He ordered that every cathedral and monastery must have a school attached to it. He invited scholars from across Europe to his court at Aachen. He promoted the preservation of ancient Roman and Greek manuscripts. The script that influenced our modern lowercase letters was developed under his reign. He built the foundations of European literacy, while struggling to read and write himself. At his court in Aachen he gathered the greatest minds of Europe: Alcuin of York, Peter of Pisa, Paulinus of Aquileia. He called his palace the Athens of the North, not because it was Athens, because he wanted it to be. He himself said in a lesson, a king who had conquered half a continent, sitting among students learning Latin grammar. He was building something that had never existed before: a civilization with memory, with libraries, with scholars, with a script everyone could read. His biographer Einhard wrote about this with remarkable honesty. Charlemagne could read Latin. He understood some Greek, but writing was different. He kept wax tablets under his pillow at night, practicing letters in the dark, trying to teach his hand what his mind already knew. He started too late. His hand was simply not trained for it. He never mastered it. The man who made literacy the foundation of his civilization went to his grave still learning. On Christmas Day in the year 800, something happened that no one fully planned. Charlemagne was praying in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Pope Leo III stepped forward and placed an imperial crown on his head. The congregation cried out, "Long live and victory to Charles Augustus, crowned by God." Charlemagne reportedly said he would never have entered the church had he known. Whether this was true or merely diplomatic, no one knows. But in that moment, the Roman Empire was reborn in the West, and Charlemagne became something no man had been in over 300 years: Emperor of the Romans. The coronation changed everything, not just for Charlemagne, for Europe. It established a principle that would define the next 1,000 years: that political power required divine approval, that kings needed popes and popes needed kings. For centuries after Charlemagne, every emperor had to wrestle with the question he created on Christmas Day 800: who has the higher authority, God's representative on earth or God's appointed ruler? Charlemagne created the question. He never had to answer it. His successors spent 1,000 years trying. What Charlemagne understood was this: territory can be taken, laws can be written, schools can be built, but civilization is fragile. It requires constant maintenance. It requires people who can read, who can think, who can pass knowledge forward. He saw what happened when Rome stopped doing that. He spent his life making sure it wouldn't happen again. When he died in 814, his empire covered what is today France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Austria, and northern Italy, more than any European ruler since Rome. 186 years after his death, Emperor Otto III opened his tomb. He found Charlemagne sitting on his throne, crown on his head, scepter in his hand, a gospel open on his lap. He had been buried as if still ruling, a symbol of eternal authority, of a power that did not end with death. The image stayed with Otto III. It was meant to be. After Charlemagne's death, his empire was divided. His grandsons signed the Treaty of Verdun in 843. They split everything into three: what became France, what became Germany, what lay between. The Europe we know today was born in that division. But the idea of Europe, the idea that these people shared something, that was Charlemagne's. He is the ancestor of virtually every European royal family. In Polish, Czech, Hungarian, the word for king comes from his name: Karol, Kierali, Kral, all of them, Charlemagne. Today, the European Union gives a prize every year to individuals who have contributed to European unity. They call it the Charlemagne Prize. It has been given since the 1950s to Winston Churchill, to Henry Kissinger, to Pope Francis. The idea that Europe is more than a collection of nations, that it shares something deeper, that goes back to one man, standing in a church on Christmas morning, having a crown placed on his head, whether he wanted it or not. He was not a perfect man. He was ruthless. He was violent. He made decisions that cost thousands of lives, but he understood something most powerful men never learn. Conquest is temporary. Civilization is the only thing that lasts. He built schools while he fought wars. He preserved knowledge while he burned villages. He promoted literacy while practicing letters in the dark. He didn't build Europe despite his contradictions. He built it through them. The man who couldn't write his own name gave Europe the tools to write its own history.